Listen, if you want to walk into all that it means to be a man, if you want to reclaim your masculinity, today's guest has a blueprint for that. He's a fighter in every sense of the word. This guy has really clawed his way to the place where he has taken back his power. And he's going to talk to us about it today on this episode of the Manlihood ManCast. Our guest today is Nico Lagan.
You're a man. You want to become a better one. You want to level up. That's nobody's task but your own. This is your starting line. This is your boot camp. It starts now. Welcome to the Manlihood ManCast with Josh Hackett.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Season 7 of the Manlihood ManCast. I'm grateful that you guys have been supporting of this men's movement, and I'm glad that you guys have been a part of it. You know, I've been seeing some really cool things happen in our group chat. We have a group chat that has formed out of the Manlihood Man Cave, which is our private Facebook group, and seeing some cool stuff happen there as the guys are encouraging each other and helping each other to be the best men that they can be. That's really what it's all about. It's not about hating on women. It's not about pointing the finger. It's not about bullying each other into being better. It's about encouraging each other and lifting each other up. So if you want to be a part of that kind of community, go to Facebook, type in Manlihood Man Cave, join the group. We'd love to have you. Also, guys, I want to encourage you, please, let's help this group grow. Let's help the podcast grow. I want you to go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review. Something happened recently where we lost our Spotify, we lost our Apple, and we had to reset our feeds, and our Apple ratings and reviews got toasted. So I want you to go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review so that we can reach more people and show them how awesome this podcast is, because it's made a difference in a lot of guys' lives. I hear it all the time. So how about you tell people about the difference it's made in your life? Go leave us a rating and a review today. Guys, today's guest, Nico Lagan, is an influential entrepreneur. He's a men's coach. He's an AI specialist, a social media strategist. This guy has 100,000 followers online, and he's making a difference by saying what needs to be said. We have a great conversation with him on the ManCast today. So we'll get into that right after this.
Are you in need of marketing help for your business or nonprofit? Do you have a company or organization that is thinking about hiring an in-house staff person to do your marketing, but realizing it's out of the budget to bring on someone with the right skills and experience?
If you need an expert to help you with any of the following: social media, graphic design, website design, web hosting, public relations, video production, podcast editing, short form video editing, email marketing, search engine optimization, content marketing, grant writing,
Grand River Agency is here to help you amplify your message and get it in front of the right people. Visit us on the web at grandriver.agency.
This is the Manlihood ManCast.
Nico, great to have you on the Manlihood ManCast today. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing great. So I did a lot of research on the work that you're doing, and you, sir, are a very interesting man.
Yeah, it's always a good way to start. I did some research on you. It's either it's either a very good thing or a very bad thing. It really depends on the case.
No, it all appeared good. You know, there's a lot of guys out there who are in this space, right?
Mhm.
Where we're trying to help men become better men, who have a lot to say, and a lot of them have a lot to say, but it's not good. You seem to be saying the good things, which is good.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of men that believe that masculinity is toxic. That's normally, if you're telling me that traditional traits are toxic, right then and there, I know you're wrong. Right then and there, I know you were probably raised by a single mother, and you haven't had a lot of masculine men in your life.
Right.
Sounds bad to
Or
say it that way, but it's quite accurate.
no, you're right. Or you have the guys who just kind of react to that, right? They react to the phrase toxic masculinity so far that they actually embody it. They're like, well, if you're going to call me a racist, I'll be racist if that's what you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And
you
it's
know
like,
what this?
that doesn't help anybody.
No, no, but at the same time, it shows a bit of immaturity, right?
Right.
Which
Exactly.
it, you know, I don't believe that masculinity is ever toxic. I think it's a lack of masculinity that's toxic, and we need to know the difference, because I think the baseline that needs to be put in place today is what is masculinity, because we are so lost when it comes to this. Like, as a simple as a term, because now women are men, men are women, so femininity doesn't really have a meaning anymore, masculinity doesn't have a meaning anymore. And we all, for some reason, a lot of people believe that everything a man does a woman can do, and vice versa. Men and women, I was on a podcast explaining this yesterday, and men and women are not equal, because equality means the same. We are not the same. People don't like this, but it is true. A man is not the same as a woman. Biologically, we're not the same. Even if you look at our psyche, we're not the same. The way that we act, we're not the same. What we embody are not the same. There are gender roles. There are things men do better than women, and vice versa. And that's how we were created. We were created to complement each other. We weren't created to compete with each other. And this is, somehow, me saying this is controversial. It's only controversial for the past 10, maybe 20 years. Prior to that, this wouldn't have been a conversation. I wouldn't have had to explain this to people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the peril is, in terms of your worth and your value as a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your gender doesn't matter. You're both valuable as human. You're both created equally in that sense that
Yep.
your value is there. However, you know, we're different, and that's not wrong. That's good. Like,
Why
I
would
mean,
I be with
as
somebody
two
that's
men,
like me, right? Why would I? Why would
exactly.
I? There's no point.
Yeah. Well, even the two of us as two men, we're
Yeah,
also different.
100%.
We have
Yep.
many things in common. Like, everybody's different,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think in one of the ways that people are different from each other is their gender, which gender is also their sex. In case anybody's listening and thinking that I'm talking about something different, it's,
Yeah.
your gender is biological. And I don't mean that to be offensive to anybody who sees the world different, or who is, you can be different and wrong, and that's okay.
But you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I talk about this all the time, and I don't really care if you're a panda. Don't matter to me. I really, really don't care. But you're not gonna tell me to tell you to call you a panda.
Right.
You're not gonna tell our kids that they need to recognize you as a panda. When you call
Or that
yourself a
they're
panda, I see somebody with psychological issues that needs to be addressed. Until very recently, gender and body dysmorphia were clinical terms. There were recognized issues by doctors. Doctors knew this was a problem that needed to be addressed. And now I feel that we live in a society where the patients are running the asylum, and we're supposed to encourage the patients. It makes no sense to me. Like, again, call yourself what you want, because as long as all you're hurting is yourself, I don't really care. I'll try to have as much empathy as I can towards you, to say, you know what, it's a shame what's going on. What's going on. You really need help, and I hope that you get the help that you should get. But at the same time, don't try to push that stuff in. Don't try to indoctrinate kids. Don't try to confuse kids with these things. Don't try to convince me that you're right and I'm wrong. This is not a feeling. This is logic. Biology is real. However you feel about it is irrelevant. And this, unfortunately, goes for a lot of different subjects, not only men and women. It goes for everything in life. But this is the problem that we're at, right? This is the biggest situation. The biggest problematic that I see is really that as a whole, we're not accountable for our actions. We think that what we do doesn't have consequences, that what we do is just irrelevant, that it just impacts us, but it doesn't. Our actions have meanings. And show me a problem in today's world, and I'll show you somebody somewhere that refuses to do their jobs.
Yeah. That's really honestly what I think part of the core of being a man is, right? Is that responsibility and ownership for the choices that you make in your life. And even sometimes you have to take responsibility for someone else's choice. And that's really kind of the very definition of being a man, is when you're willing to take the brunt of whatever needs to be taken care of to take care of stuff, you know?
That's what men do. Men are supposed to serve. Men are supposed to take care. Men are supposed to, you know what, do what needs to get done when it needs to get done, not because it's easy, but because it needs to get done. And this is what we see with men today. We're not accountable for our actions. And I'm saying we because I'm a man and I'm going to speak for most men out there, but most men are not accountable. Most men don't want that responsibility. It's hard to be a man. You know, I can't remember the name of the girl, but there's a French girl as a sociological experiment. She was a lesbian, and as an experiment, she decided that she would live as a man. She was the butch of the relationship. She was already a bit more manly than a traditional woman, and she decided to go live as a man. You should see the results of this. She came out afterwards saying, like, I cannot believe that men put up with this stuff. I can't believe that men feel the way that they feel, because we are, women take this for granted, but men in general are oblivious to women as a whole. Do you know 40% of men will never procreate, will never be in a long term relationship where they will have kids? 40%. And that's not a choice. It is just the way it is for those men. And 95, do you know that 95% of women compete for 5% of the men? And then whatever they end up in their mid 30s, when they didn't get that top 5% of men, they settle for some other men. This is the reality in which we live, and men are not stupid. We know this. Like, this is a fact. The studies are there. It's very easy. Google, 2 seconds, you'll find the studies. And this is a reality that we're faced as men, but women don't see that. Like, women bring themselves to the equation, and they assume that it's going to be enough. When you look at men, we're all, Chris Rock said this as a joke years ago. He said that only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. Men are always loved on the basis that they bring something to the table. And this is a hard fact, but it is true. But this is 100% true. And as a man, you know what? I accept this, and I know it to be a fact. And it's okay. Does it suck? Yeah. Does it make things a lot harder? Of course it does. But it still doesn't change the fact that it is a fact, that we will always be judged for what we bring to the table. Being a man is not enough. And a man is not born. A man is made through trials and tribulations. That's how we become men. We become men by being around other men that can teach us what it is to be a man, because they know, because they're wiser than we are. They're older. They've been through life. And this is not something that we look at for what it is anymore. We don't have, men, even our boys don't even have institutions. Like, the only institutions that was left for boys to be around men was the Boy Scout. And now that's not even there anymore. Boys can't even be boys anymore. They've basically removed the PE classes from high school. Like, it's insane. You just look everywhere. It's like men are supposed to act like women. And when we don't, we're penalized for it. We're called toxic, or we're pumped full of medication as children because we don't behave like little girls. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. The world that we live in right now, how men are taken for granted everywhere.
It is a crazy situation. And I think, we could look into the reasons why, and I think, you can trace a lot of it back to a lot of philosophies that are out there, and political philosophies. And I think that there are people who profit from the situation that we're in.
Of course.
But my take on it a lot of times, and I think, looking at the work that you're doing, that bigger picture is the thing that you don't change, right? The personal, real life application in your life, Nico, in my
Hmm.
life, Josh, and each
Yep,
listener, that's where you change things, right?
100%. And again, this is something I was talking about this week, where we tend to look at the bigger picture and try to find ways to change the bigger picture. So look at politics, for example. Let's just use, because it's an easy way to use it. We don't agree with the federal government. We don't agree with the laws, so we try to get to the federal level and to say we're going to change it from that sphere, from the biggest thing that we can think of, or we're going to go through the state. Yet real change is always done on the individual base. Like, the world has changed one man at a time. If that's the case, what is a bunch of men that live together? A community. You want to change your state, you want to change your country, change the communities in which you live. This is where you have impact. This is where the real money is spent. This is where, there's a small city in Michigan, back, I think it was in November. Basically, the town was offered a contract by a Chinese company to build a battery plant. So it went to the city council. The city council offered the vote to the community. Community said no. The council went ahead and didn't listen to the community. They went ahead and approved the plan. You know what the community did? They went in, they changed the lock, they kicked them out, and they put new people in place. Pow! There you go. This is how you want to change your community. This is how you do it. The people that are the leaders in your community should represent you. You're not happy with what they do? Awesome. Vote them out. That doesn't work? Physically take them out. Replace them with people that the majority of people agree with. And this is how you change it. This is exactly how you change the society in which you live. One little municipality, one little community at a time.
Yeah, 100%. And even in your own home, I think about that all the time.
That's where it starts, bro.
Yeah, that's, a lot of times that change that we want to see is another generation away.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
we need to be investing in our children and our grandchildren and teaching them the values that we need. Which brings me
And
to
this
a
is where it
question
starts.
that,
This is where it starts, bro.
brings,
Sorry to cut you off, but you're bang on.
good.
Starts with the family, 100%.
Which brings me to a question based off of what you've been saying that I think would be worth exploring. You said that men learn to be men from other men,
Mm-hmm.
right? We learn to be men by hanging out with and being around other men. How about you in your own life? Where did you learn this? How did you become a
Martial
man?
arts.
Did you have any martial arts? Did
Martial
you have
arts.
a father figure reaching into your life or anything like that? Or
My dad left. My biological dad left. I was 14 years old. My parents got divorced, and he left. I saw him a handful of time afterwards. Like, I think the last time I saw him, I was 20 or 21 years old. He died when I was 29. And when my parents broke up, he just basically disappeared. And my mother eventually met somebody else. She got me married. Great guy. But by the time he showed up, I wasn't listening anymore. Like, the damage was
Mhm.
done. I didn't care. Like, within, and that's the thing. Men and young men are always looking for role models. They're always looking for men to emulate. They're always looking to try to figure out, what's a good man? What can I do to look like that person? And if you take me, for example, which is unfortunately the case of a lot of young men today, is they don't have that father figure. They don't know. The study shows that in the US right now, between 33% to 40%, depending on the study that you look at, will say that boys live in a home where their fathers are not present. And when I say present, is they live with a single mother. So the father is not in the household. 30% to 40%. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I used to be an anomaly 27 years ago. Now it's become 30 to 40%. You're talking about norms here. So we're really in a situation where boys, similar to my situation, are not raised in a household where there's a masculine man, where there's a masculine present. And the biggest fallacy in all of this is that women, for some reason, and I'm not trying to blame them, I'm just calling a fact here. Women think that a woman can teach a boy how to become a man, and they can't. Only a man can teach a young boy, a young man how to become a man. In the same way as, this is what I find interesting. If I go ahead and say a man cannot teach a little girl how to become a woman, everybody agrees. We're all like, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Yep, we agree. You know how many times I've got absolutely destroyed in the comment sections of my videos for saying women cannot teach a boy how to become a man. Only a man can. Stop the video there. But everybody agrees that a man can't teach a girl how to become a woman, but yet me saying that the same thing is true but in reverse is inaccurate. And unfortunately, you look at the statistics and women are doing a terrible job at raising boys. Absolutely a terrible, terrible job. Like, the statistics are brutal when you look at it. And I can go even further, single men, which only represents 10% of single parents, do a way better job at raising raising children by themselves. It's very interesting. That's another thing that women don't like to hear. But the fact is that boys need a man. I didn't have one, and I'm the perfect example. Within a year, I was dropping out of school. Within a couple of years, I was an alcoholic. I was doing drugs every day, so I was a drug addict. Within a couple more years, I was selling drugs to support my habit. I was stealing anything I could to pay for my habit. And this went on for years and years and years. And you know what? All I would have really needed is a man to pick me up and smack me. Really have a man be a man and say, what the beep are you doing? Like, let me show you what you're supposed to be doing. And I did not have that because, unfortunately, you can't control. I don't want to get in an argument with someone as to why a woman is single. I don't care. This is not the point. But the point I'm going to make is this. If you are a single mother and you have a boy or boys, find him good men because you cannot teach him. Find him men to surround him so that he can learn what it is to be a man, because it is not your job to teach him, but your job is to find those men. If for some reason the father is not there, find those men. And I want to say this as well. If the father wants to be present, you do not have the right to prevent him. It's not because the law system is in your favor, because 90% of women get the children after a divorce. 90%. So don't tell me it's because you're a better parent. You're not. It's just that the justice system is in favors of women right now. But it is not your right. If the father wants to be present, you have no rights to prevent him from seeing his son. Because I can tell you from personal experience, you will learn to regret it. This is selfish what you're doing. Do it for him. Don't do it for you. And I am the perfect example of what happens if you do not have a masculine man around you. Fortunately for me, in my 20s, I went back to school. I stopped doing drugs. I cut everybody that was around me. I just concentrated on me and becoming better. Found the gym. I found martial arts, and martial art is really where, for the first time in my life, I was surrounded by men. I was really, really surrounded by men that I could look up to. And if you've never competed in sports or competed in any type of activities, if you've never competed, you might not understand this, but a good coach, like a sports coach, a martial art coach, a coach will use a shared passion like sports, martial art, whatever it is that you're seeing that coach for, and he will teach people life lessons through that shared passion. And this is the beautiful thing about competing in sports. I would say that martial arts is even better because a man's supposed to be a protector, so might as well hit two birds with the same stone. But the point is that you need to surround yourself or surround your son by good men that are going to teach him life lesson through a shared passion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think it does make a lot of sense. There is obviously a segment of us that just desperately need something to do in order to learn, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can give me a
Yep.
book or I can watch YouTube videos all day long, but until my hands are on it, do I learn it? And I think martial arts seems like a really good way to learn discipline and to learn self-control and to learn all those virtues to learn strength, all those virtues of manhood. We learn them. You learn them on the mat.
And it's really being, discipline is a great one, being part of a team, being able to depend on others, being able for others to depend on you, being tested in front of others, being able to be failing in front of others and having men show up afterwards and say, you know what, no problem, I'll show you what you could do better. You become coachable. Like the advantages of doing martial arts are endless. Like I could go on and on and on about all the qualities that you can build through martial arts, but the point in the matter is that it is about one of the only places left that men can be surrounded by other men and actually be men. Because men, we have an innate want to wrestle, to play around, to smack somebody on the face, to boys being boys, right? I'm 41 years old, man, and if I find somebody around me that has bit of testosterone, they might know how to fight, we're gonna throw down at one point. We'll do something. I'll smack you, you'll smack me, whatever it is. I'm gonna look to start. I'll push you, like, you know what I'm saying. This is what men do. It's just part of who we are. We're not women, so don't expect us to sit in a corner and in a circle drinking tea and talking about our feelings. This is not what men speak about. Their feelings when they beat up each other a bit. How many times have I had those live conversations with people I was coaching after I'm a bit bloodied, I'm hurting, they're hurting, we're just there completely destroyed, like just physically exhausted, and then you talk about stuff that women would talk about, but we need that in order to get to that point. This is how men, women form bonds by sharing to each other, by being emotional with each other. Men share bonds by competing, by pushing each other, by just being able to be physical with one another. Man, just testing, because you test yourself. That's another great thing that martial art teaches you. Teaches you that you can take a punch, teaches you that you're not that soft, you're not that easy to break, that you're a lot tougher than you think, that your mental is so much stronger than what you can ever imagine. Just need to get pushed, just need to be tested.
So, what martial art in particular have you studied? Have you studied different ones? What is your
Yeah.
specialty?
Karate was the first one. My evolution was really karate. Then I did taekwondo, I did boxing, I did kickboxing. Then I found Muay Thai, which is this to this day. I've been in Muay Thai for almost 20 years now, and I'm a Muay Thai crew. I'm a Muay Thai instructor recognized under the Thailand government. But this is Muay Thai is my thing. But I also did BJJ. I also did wrestling. I also did MMA. I only competed in Muay Thai, though. I never competed in any other martial art. I also did Krav Maga after I stopped competing. I did a lot of training with knives, training with guns, training with a lot of different type of weapons. So there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Awesome. What do you do? What does your training look like now? Are you still competing? Are you training to compete? Just train more for the fun of it?
No, my
The
body's
health of
hurting
it?
too much, man. Obviously I hit the gym 4 or 5 times a week now, but the competing part, I haven't competed in, man, 7 years ish, 7, 8 years, I think. Um, the teaching part has been hard. Like since what we know happened in 2020, where in Canada, where I was at that point, the all the gyms closed, right? So for a while we couldn't teach anymore, and I went from living in the city, like I was sales engineer, so I was in front of customers day in day out, and once that happened, I moved out of the city and I went to my investment house in the middle of nowhere, and I lived there for about 3 years. So there was no gym, there was nothing around there. Like I built my own gym in the house. Like I bought thousands of dollars of equipment so that I could still work out. And I had a buddy that lived about 45 minutes away that we would train once a week because he had a bunch of mats in his basement. But for years, that's all I did because I left the city, And now I've been moving around the US and Mexico for about 14 months now. And it's hard to train or to teach if you're not in the same place for long enough. But now we've been in Alabama for a few months now. We really like it here. So this is something I want to get back into now. Like, this is actually, funny enough, this is something I'm going to start doing again. I'm going to start doing it through church, like probably try to mentor some of the young men there into learning how to like to defend themselves. But I definitely want to do some one-on-one training. Not, not in a, the thing to understand is, you look at karate, you look at kickboxing, boxing, you look at Muay Thai, BJJ, and you look at wrestling. It is a sport. There's a lot of techniques that translates into real life, but it is still a sport. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I'm not competing, so the sport aspect doesn't make sense to me. So I want to go to a point where I'm going to put somewhat of a system together of all the best techniques that I've learned from Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, BJJ, Krav Maga, and all put them together. Like, train in regular clothes like you're wearing right now, and train with running shoes, train in all different types of situation. You train in the street, you train in closed environment, you train everywhere, because this is what's representative. Like, I want people, like in Alabama, a lot of people carry guns, so I want you to train with your gun on your hip, because this is a reality. At one point, this is, when you're training, it should be the most representative of your everyday life. And I don't want to train people for the sport. I want to train people for, like, young men, how to defend yourself against bullies. But I especially want to train father and son combo, or fathers or son. But this is, I want to teach them how to take care of their families. I want to teach them how fitness is so important, how show them how to work out, show them how to build a good diet, how to treat their bodies with the respect that it deserves, know how to protect your family. So
Yeah, more of a practical approach to it than than the
100%.
sport. Yeah,
Yep.
and both are
100%.
valid. Both have a place. So
100%. Absolutely. Man, I love the fact that I competed. I would highly, highly suggest to people to learn to fight and to step in a ring in front of people. When I discovered martial arts in my early 20s, I had no intentions of competing. All I wanted to know is, I had been bullied as a teenager, and it's something that always stays in your mind. Like, I always knew that if somebody really went for me, I wouldn't know what to do. And I was a coward. I was a coward, no questions about it. And within a couple of, maybe year and a half of training, my trainer, which is an absolute madman, he was like, "Hey, bro, you ever thought about fighting? You ever thought about stepping in a ring?" I'm like, never thought about it, but this is how it started, right? So I highly suggest to compete. It's good to know, to be put in a very stressful environment that is controlled. There's still a referee there. There's still rules, but the guy is still there to kick your ass. Like, the
right.
guy is still there to knock you out, to submit you, to make you pass out any way that is legally possible. So it is a good stress environment. Like, you know, if something happens in real life, I know how to manage it. I've been there before, obviously, but I've been in the ring. Like, it's a great way to just test yourself. So it's not for everybody. I understand that, but it is a great thing to try, especially in controlled environment. It's a great learning lesson. It's a life lesson that most men should know, should experience, should just see how they react. It's a great test.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I love hearing how the difference that it made in your own life too, to go from somebody who was bullied and,
Yeah.
like you said, you called yourself a coward. Uh,
Hmm.
would that happen to you today?
Today, I will do anything I can not to fight today without being stupid. Like, I haven't fought in years. I lost my cool once in a few years, and that was on me, but nothing happened. Like nothing physical happened. I was not as cool as I should have been, but I've learned, I know how to de-escalate the situation. I understand that most people don't know how to fight. It's not like in movies where people pick up a gun and they're capable of killing people at 50 yards out. Yeah, that does not happen. I fully understand that the average person, which is 99.9% of people, don't know how to fight. They're only trying to be aggressive because deep down they're scared and they want to prove that they're not. And if all it takes is for me to say that they're right and I'm wrong, so be it. Like, I don't have anything to prove to people. And unless somebody tries to physically hurt me, unless they really put their hands on me, do something, put their hands on my girlfriend, put their hands on people that I love, I really, really don't see the point. But that being said, though, if you touch my loved ones, you touch myself, there's nowhere I won't go.
Yeah, I think that describes actually masculinity right there.
Mm-hmm.
Capable of great violence, right? But also capable of great self-control to know this is
Temperance.
not the time. Yeah.
Temperance. This is why a man's supposed to be a protector, but he also needs to have temperance. He also needs to know when it's applicable. Like, I like to see it this way. I like to see it as a monster. Like, my monster is like a massive American bulldog. He's very muscular, very violent, but he's chained up to the side of the house. He's not moving from there. He's always on a chain, and he's going to stay on that chain unless there's really something that's almost life threatening. Unless I'm really facing serious injuries. I posted a video the other day. I found that amazing. He was a street preacher. And there's somebody that came up to him, and he's on the megaphone, he's just preaching, and somebody walks up to him and boom, smacks him right in the face. The guy takes it, turns around, and the guy that smacks him just continues walking, and he just turns around and is like, you know what, bro, that was a good clap, good for you, I didn't see that one coming. That's his whole reaction to it. And then I just commented, like, it's like a 10-second clip, and then I'm like, man, I still have a lot to learn, because if that guy did that to me, I would have knocked him out. And for the longest time, and I'm still debating this today, it's, do those guys need to be hurt for what they just did? Do they need to understand that there's a consequence to their actions? Because they did attack somebody, and attacking somebody is never okay. I don't care who you are, it's not okay to attack someone. Unless if it's self-defense, that's one thing, but that's the only time that it's okay. And a lot of again, that got hundreds if not thousands of comments, and a lot of the people are like, oh, I would have smacked him, I would have done this, I would have done that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, the Bible tells me to not seek revenge, to turn the other cheek. To somebody smacks me on the left, guess what, I'll give you my right. Because there's a difference between self-defense and revenge. And if that preacher would have done something to the guy that walked away, to the attacker, if you will, it would have been revenge, because he wasn't physically hurt. His ego was probably hurting. Like, his ego was probably, I want to hurt that guy. But was he in any danger? No. So this to me is a man right there. If somebody attacks you in this fashion that I just described, let it go. Learn to control that. Because it's one mistake. What would have happened if you followed that guy, start fighting with him, and something happens? Just something happens where he falls wrong on the ground because they're on asphalt. He falls wrong, hits his head, then cracked cranium, and then the guy dies. That's manslaughter. That's 7 years in prison. Your life is gone. For one stupid action, your life is gone. I can live with doing prison if I end up hurting somebody bad because they were attacking my girlfriend, attacking myself, children, loved ones, whatever the case may be. If I'm defending somebody or myself and shit happens, and unfortunately I'm in a place in the world or a state that don't believe in self-defense, so be it. This is a consequence that I will not regret. But man, can you imagine going to prison for somebody that gave you the finger at an intersection? You got out of the car, you pulled them out, you knocked them out, you hurt him bad, and he ends up pressing charges, or you end up hurting him in a point that he'll never recover for this or for a word. Can you imagine? And that happens all the time, right? So, and God knows I've done that. God knows that I have done that to people at red lights. God knows I followed people home because they gave me the finger. This is how bad I was back in the days, but how stupid was I? Like, how lucky am I that I've never really had consequences to that? How lucky am I?
Yeah, man, road rage is a real thing. I mean, I've
Mm,
cussed back a couple times,
yep.
slammed on my brakes and yelled in the car. Um, I, I think my father did a good job of teaching me to control it though before you get in somebody's face. Um,
Yeah. Plus, you never know who you're dealing with either. Like,
yeah,
you never
yeah,
know who you're dealing with either. For because you know, as hard as this is to do in the moment, like in the present moment where this is going on, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what happened to that person. Maybe, you know what? Maybe he's pissed off. He gave you the finger. He cut you off. He did something really stupid because his mind was not there, because he's really thinking about something different. And you pushing on that button on top of it might be all he needs to pull a gun on you, might be all he needs to go completely ballistic on you. Like, you never know who you're dealing with. You don't know the state of mind that they're in. And how is that hurting you really? It's a finger. Like, seriously. Like, is that harmful, or is it just your ego that's being hurt? Similar to the preacher, right? Was he physically hurt? No, I'm sure he felt something. But at the end of the day, he was not in a survival mode where he needed to fight for his life. He was just, his ego was probably hurting, or maybe it wasn't the first time, and inside he was actually laughing. Like, he's a lot better than me. I have a lot to learn still, but
yeah. I think that's the thing, man. Like it's easy to lose your cool when. Well, I mean, Mike Tyson said it right.
yep.
Everybody's got a plan until he gets punched in the face. So
Yeah, you know, as messed up as Mike Tyson was in the past, I'm a fan. I've all Even when he was really messed up, I always liked the guy. Like, I've always been a fan. Love that guy.
dude, as a fighter, like did you see that was I think it was 2 years ago he was train I haven't seen him fight since, but I saw him training,
Yeah,
a video of him training, and I'm like, that dude is old and
yeah.
I wouldn't mess with him. I would
I know,
not
and
mess
and
with
he's a
him.
big boy, right? He's probably about 5'10", but easily weigh 220, 240.
And when he throws
And
a punch, it's everything, dude.
and that's the thing. It's you know, one of the things with a guy like Tyson is that the speed's gone. He's half as fast as he was, maybe less. Power, though, power's still there. And you don't take 20 of those punches. It takes one. One of
One.
that punch connects, it's good night, Irene. You wake up staring at the stars. It's
I think that's what I've learned about old guys is you don't want to mess with them because they're like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm almost dead. I mean,
no, but I think
you
it's
got
more than
nothing to
that. It's
lose.
just old men too are used to, like, they were raised in a different world.
Oh yeah.
Like, you look, like, I remember seeing this on the news, and I thought it was hilarious. It was a young thug that did a home invasion. Like, he wasn't there. He was B&E, right? He was breaking and entering, and he was stealing from this old guy. Turns out that the guy's old military, and he was boxing, Golden Glove boxer. So the guy knew how to throw. Man, you should see the face of that young guy.
Man.
Oof, he smashed him. And you're talking about a guy that was easily 75, if not in his 80s. Like, the guy just smashed him. This is one thing that the average person doesn't understand. When you know how to fight, when you are a trained fighter and you fight somebody that doesn't know, it is literally like a grown man fighting a child. There's nothing much you can do. If you don't know what to do, if you've never been, and I don't care that you've had 100 street fight, bullshit. Street fights are crap. You're fighting other people that don't know how to fight. When you
Mhm.
train against guys that are world class, when you train with military, when you train with ex-military, you start to understand that there is a massive, massive, massive steps to this game. Like there are levels to this game, and unless you've experienced it, unless you trained it, unless you understand it, it's really, really like a grown man fighting a child. It's not fair. And those cases, you're talking about a guy that's almost 4 times the age of the first guy. And not a scratch on his face. You look at the other guy, his orbital bone must have been broken because his eye looked like a vagina. Like it was really just like he learned a lesson, I think.
Yeah, don't mess with old guys,
Yeah,
especially like especially not in like like you said, those states where like you've got a right to defend yourself or your property. Like
yeah,
you
stand
break
your
in the
ground.
wrong house, like that's the thing I think most people don't understand about things like gun ownership, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
like gun ownership stops crime. Legal gun
You,
ownership stops crime because I'm not going to break into a house where someone's going to shoot me.
you know, there's an old saying that says that a polite society is an armed society. And it's true. When you don't know who the hell you're dealing with, that guy could have a gun, that guy knows how to fight, that guy's ex-military, he's a police officer, you don't know. You don't know who you're dealing with. People tend to be extremely, extremely polite. And I would argue that this is one of the things that most men are missing today. Like most men, and again, this is something that martial art will teach you. You know, we were talking about all the benefits of martial arts earlier, and one of the things I forgot to mention is ego. Man, I've had the pleasure, the chance, and the bad luck to train with world-class fighters. Like not the fact that they fought on the world stage. No, no, they were world champion. They were the best at what they did on the planet. Yeah, boy, you realize that as much as I know how to fight, oh boy, there's better guys than me out there. A lot better guys than me out there, and they remind you every time you put the gloves with guys like that. Every time you start playing around with guys like that, you're like, there's levels to this game, even to my stage, right? So it helps with the ego. Martial arts very good with understanding that you don't necessarily know who you're dealing with. Don't judge somebody by what they look like, and be polite. Society is when people know how to defend themselves and have the tools to do it, the tools and the skills, makes for a very polite society.
For sure, man. Nico, I like to ask all my guests a few questions. Uh, get a lot of different responses, so I'd be interested to see your take on these things. So, the
Go
first
for it.
question is, what does it take to be a man?
5 things. There's 5 virtues to a good man: being courageous, being a protector, being a provider, having temperance, and having faith.
Uh, do you have a? I think you've got a book on that, right? Or some resources on
I
that.
have a book on purpose. My first book last year that I did was on purpose. I'm writing the 5 virtues of a good man right now, but this is something that I talk about all the time. This is something I coach men on how to acquire or move to acquire those 5 virtues. And I will be releasing a book this year for sure. It's just a matter of a few months on the 5 virtues of a good man. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and later on in the episode, we'll talk about the best way for our guys to connect with you because we'll have that there because I
Yeah. Yeah.
want people to connect and definitely follow the work you're doing because that's awesome.
Yep.
So, all right, next question. You can hop in a time machine and go back to 30 some years ago and visit 10-year-old Nico. What do you want to tell him?
Nothing. I wouldn't say anything. I'm very, you know, looking back, I'm very happy about what happened because everything that happened put me in the situation that I'm in now. So nothing. I don't know that I would see the value in going back to see myself.
So the hard times, the struggle, the mistakes, you can definitely see how those helped shape you in a positive way in the end, right?
Everybody is the again, one of the big this is one of the biggest problems too that I see today is we fear suffering, we fear pain, we run away from it, we try to shelter our kids from pain, and yet the two greatest teachers on this planet is pain and suffering.
Mm.
Nobody learns anything when everything's going well. You learn real life value when you are rock bottom, when you're at the bottom of a pit and you don't know how you're going to get out of it. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're put in a situation where there's nothing that's going well. You don't know what to do, and this is the only time somebody really changes. Human beings do not change unless continuing to do the same thing is more painful than changing. The day that changing is less painful than continuing to do what you're doing is the only time you change. So pain and suffering should be embraced. I embrace it. I don't like it, but I got used to it. I understand that this is how God speaks to me. This is how God teaches me what I need to know. I I should do research and find where that story comes from, because I've said it 1,000 times already. But there's a man that asks God for patience, and God comes back to him and says, "You know what? I can't give you patience, but I can put you in situations that will force you to be patient." And this is what pain and suffering is.
Nico, before I ask you my next question, a follow-up question on that, can you tell
Hmm.
me about a time, maybe on a personal level, where you had to suffer and you learned a lesson from it? Maybe something recently?
I'm going through it right now. So 14 months ago, I was a sales engineer, was making about 100 grand, 150 grand a year. I had a possibility of doing 300 to 400 grand at a new job. Instead, I decided to refinance my house, to take all my money that I've saved, all the things that I have invested. I took it out, I cashed it out, and I decided to follow God. To just say, you know what? I will buy myself some time to try to figure out what I'm supposed to do in life. And you know what? The past 14 months have been the hardest time of my life. And right now is the hardest time of my life. As we speak right now, I'm going through personal stuff that's forcing me to have faith, because I don't know what the outcome is. I know that I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing right now. I know that my life purpose is to help other men become better men, become good men, find purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. No questions about it. My life has all been through this, and I'm supposed to be talking about it the way I'm doing it right now. But it is hard. It is very hard monetarily. It is very hard spiritually. It is very hard mentally. Every time I open my social media now, I get millions of views every month on my content. And every time I open my social media, it's full of insults. It's full of people calling me names. It's full of people telling me that I'm this, that I'm that. And I engage with those people on a daily basis. And it would have been a lot easier for me to stay in my last job, just be selfish, take care of myself. I would have probably bought 5 new properties by now. By cashing out, I could have just dumped some down payments on other properties, do renos on them myself, like I've done in the past, and just flip those houses, or just keep them. But I knew that wasn't my purpose. I knew that's not what I was supposed to do. And you know, I there was a study that came out years ago, and they were asking people on their deathbed. So they were asking the dying what their biggest regret was. And the biggest regret of the dying is to live a life others expected of them and not the life they wanted to live. And to me, that means that people decided to be scared and not live their purpose. This is how I see this. Because man, living a life, your 9 to 5, is very easy. It's not very complicated. You know exactly what you're supposed to do, but you'll pay the price later on. You will have an easy life, but you will probably be filled with regrets of not really doing what your heart was telling you to do, what God put you on this planet for. And I just refuse to do it. I just however path it takes me down, I will live my purpose for the rest of my life. Whatever it means. Whatever it means, I just hope that God provides enough so that I can have a life that is comfortable for my family. But I always keep in mind what Bruce Lee said. do not wish for an easy life. Wish for the strength to endure a hard one.
Well, man, I'm sorry that it's difficult, but I'm not sorry that
Don't,
you're doing what you're supposed to do.
you know, it sucks that it is. It's very challenging on my girlfriend and I. But you know what? Unlike a month ago, I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, and you know what? It's been hard. It's been super hard. It's been very testing on my relationship with my girlfriend. But you know what? I know that if we can go through this, if we can go through the unknown and get out of it together, we'll be stronger for it. I've been through this so many times in my life, bro. I've been in so many downs in my life, so many of them, so many times. I can probably recall 5 to 10 right now, just to say I did not know what I was going to do next. I did not know. Either I was becoming a homeless, either I was losing my house, either whatever the reason might be, I was in a situation where I could not figure out what the answer was, what was coming next. And you know what? I always got out of it. And now looking back, it always makes me smile. Because now if I went through that same situation, I'd fucking stick my, sorry for my language, but I'd stick my finger up my nose and I'd just say, man, this is easy. I've done this before. I can do this with my eyes closed now. So this is the beauty of life, man. This is the beauty of embracing pain, not running away from it. Meditate on it, pray on it, let it hit you. It's okay that life, you know, there was a saying in Rocky Balboa, which is my favorite Rocky of them. It's like the sixth one, where he says that nothing hits as hard as life, and life will keep you on your knees if you let it. So it's not about how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Excellent. Which brings me probably to my next question, and you may echo some of those things. What is your best advice for men that are listening today?
Suck it up. Just suck it up, man. You know what? Being a man is hard. Being a man is super hard. It is way harder than being a woman. But you know what? It is still a fact that you're supposed to serve. You're supposed to protect. You're supposed to provide. You're supposed to be courageous. You're supposed to have temperance. You're supposed to have faith. Be the leader that your family needs. Be the change, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You never know who you're... You know, earlier you asked, what would I tell my 10-year-old self? I wouldn't tell him anything. But you know what I want for my 14-year-old self? I want to be the man he would have needed. This is the man I want to be. I am today. This is the man I want to continue being. Is the man that my 14-year-old self could look at and say, that's a good man right there. This is the man. That's a man that's flawed. That's a man that's made a lot of mistakes. That's a man that probably carries a lot of pain with him. But you know what? He's doing the right thing. Every day he decides to do the right things. Every day he tries to be better. He tries to help people. He tries to have compassion. He tries to be an inspiration to the people around them. Because you never know who's looking. You never know who's watching. So.
Good advice, man. Nico, this has been a great conversation. I think we're going to have you on the show again down the road, because I think we could talk for hours.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime you want, be my pleasure.
So what's the best way for our guys to get in touch with you, to follow the work you're doing?
NicoLagan.com. Everything's on there. Everything that I'm working on right now, the coaching that I do, all the shows that I appear on, my blog, my podcast, my social media, everything's on there.
Awesome. I'll make sure we link it in the show notes so the guys can just click right through and check out his site and go follow him on social. And dude, you're doing good work, and I really appreciate you taking the time for being real with us today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Sorry for the email from an imposter that you got, but
yeah.
but
to let our listeners know, I got an email from a random person saying that she worked for him, trying to help book him on podcasts, wrote the person back, email bounced, wasn't even a real person. So I reached out to him like, hey, man, I got this email. You want to be on my show anyway? And
Yeah, I have no idea who that is. I book my own shows. Like I have a team, but my team does not deal with my PR stuff. They don't deal with my social media. I'm the only person that touches it, so it's interesting. It happens, man.
Yeah.
But thanks for following up. Thanks for contacting me directly.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, yeah, it's funny because I'm wondering how many other messages like that I've reached out to have been maybe an imposter. I don't know. Who knows?
Oh yeah, how many people did that person contact for me? I don't know what the actual intent is, because it's possibly this, like possibly that person was building a list. Like they can see, oh, he has about 100,000 followers. He does a lot of videos. You can see that he has a good message. So I'm going to try to book him on a bunch of podcasts, and then I'm going to try to go work for him. Or maybe it was a person from a PR company, and it's just their plan was to contact me afterwards.
Maybe it was a chat bot. Maybe it wasn't even a person.
Oh, that's
because you could do a lot of that with AI now. So
it'd be very, very, very easy to do so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm glad that I talked to a real person, because the real Nico is pretty cool.
I appreciate that, brother. Thanks for reaching out, man.
Awesome. Thanks again for being on the show. Nico, thank you for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate you. I appreciate that you are willing to say the things a lot of people aren't willing to say. Guys, make sure you check out the work that Nico is doing. And as always, guys, leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, a rating on Spotify. Follow our channel on YouTube. Let's spread the word about the difference that Manlihood is making. I'll see you guys in the Manlihood Man Cave on Facebook. Let's chime in on this episode and talk about what we're learning. I love you guys. I'm proud of you. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Manlihood ManCast. If you want to be a better husband, father, leader, a better man, you need to join our private Facebook group, the Manlihood Man Cave. Join today. Please help us out with a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And check us out at manlihood.com.